Whole Man Academy. Because the world needs strong men. Whole Man Academy is changing the game for men around the world. It's for guys who want to live an epic life of fun and adventure, no matter what. We believe, deep down, all men want to go on their own hero's journey to becoming resilient, confident, fearless, and fulfilled. Listening to be inspired by guys who don't settle for living a life of mediocrity. This is your call to action and call to adventure. Are you ready?
Okay, guys, Happy New Year. I hope you've had a good festive time and not got too fat and not been too lazy over the festive period. But we are back with some powerful podcasts. First one is Rick Cooper. Now, Rick was on our podcast about a year ago, actually, and he's got some really powerful content, really great ideas, and I thought I'd bring him back on to kick the year off with something that I would describe as some good real talk. But before we jump into that, use a reminder, if you haven't already, sign up for a game-changing weekly e-letter. Goes out to hundreds of men around the world, across the world on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's www.wholemanacademy.com/movement, or the link will be in the show notes below. Right, let's jump in. Okay, so this is the Whole Man Academy podcast, episode 121. In theory, all being well, the first one of 2023. So Happy New Year. Welcome to all new listeners, especially after the Neil Kramer podcast that went bonkers because everybody loved the content in it. My guest today, some of you will recognize his beautiful head, beautiful face, and crazy jumper, is Rick Cooper, men's performance and lifestyle coach. Rick, first of all, how are you and where are you, mate?
Mate, I'm all good. Thank you for the intro. I am at home in West Sussex. Just been for a lovely walk with someone this morning, which is just nice to get out and just see people, because you know what it's like. We just spoke about off there, like when you're on your home at home on your own, you end up becoming more reclusive, more detached, and even though we convince ourselves we're connected, we're definitely not.
You know, there's several ways that, we want to talk about this, but even in the last few weeks, I've seen where more companies are saying how great it is that people can work from home. And we always know there's the plus and, pluses and negatives of all that. But again, a lot of the guys I've spoke to have had that, and I feel it myself sometimes, where, you're missing out on the connections of going out, grabbing a coffee, getting lunch, talking to colleagues and stuff. And especially when, we said about it as well, but when like the weather's like this, it's pretty bleak where we are anyway. So I always encourage guys, you forget how important it is to get out and have, either a laugh with someone, grab a coffee or something. Our latest Whole Man Academy dinner was 2.5 weeks ago now. And we had 12, 13, whatever it was, guys there. And some of them said the same, like, it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank and everything else that's going on. If you're sitting at home all day, you can very easily become like slightly reclusive without even noticing it. So I just wonder if is that what you've found, especially since you've been kind of more at home?
Oh my God, yeah, like 100%. Like I love people. Like I'm a kinesthetic guy. I like touch. I like eye contact. And even now, like I'm on the call, and part of me inside wants to smash the screen because I'm like, I want a proper conversation with you. Like I want to see you. I want to see your skin. I want to see your eyes. I want to, when we talk, like we've been together in person, and I want to touch your shoulder or, whatever it is. And it's just, what we are primitively, we're made to be together. And mate, this last 2 or 3 years and how it is now, it isn't been about the 2 or 3 years. It's been about the last 20 years of messaging.
Yes. Yeah. The slow build up.
The slow, 100%. Like the 20, 30 years, slow build up. Like this last 2 or 3 years wasn't by chance. This has been going on and going on and going on. This like deliberate detachment of human contact, of manipulation of the brain by so many sources, and it's so intricate. It's so intricate and on such fucking mass, and it'd be hard for us to sit here for even 5 hours
break it
to
down,
discuss, dissect, break down, to let people understand. Even those who would listen and go, "Oh, fuck off! Like, what are you two talking about? This is the best thing ever." Like, for us, it'd take 5 or 6 hours just for that person to go, "Oh, actually, that's got a point."
Something to think about.
Yeah, now they've actually just completely broke everything down. But yeah, and it's like we said earlier, a lot of the time, like, I ain't got the fucking energy to try and convert the unconverted.
Yeah. It's so, I always use the term like we're walking towards or sleepwalking to a contactless society. And last week or the week before, and it's now been on, it was on Sky News, it was in various newspapers, that Oxford City are going to be one of the first cities to implement 15-minute districts. Sounds great. And their thought is that, everything you'll need will be within 15 minutes. Which again, I love the way that with so many things in life, things that aren't great, they package them up in a good way. So people that won't bother to think about it will just go, hey, that sounds cool. Give me that, give me those drugs, give me whatever it is that you've got, not understanding what the consequences are. And here's what I think was the big part of that for me, is because it's local to you, more people I know can pay attention to it. Whereas when it's far away, it's easy to kind of go, oh, that's going on over there. Good example is there's a saying I heard, which is, one death is a tragedy and 1 million deaths is a statistic. And a lot of people now, if someone dies locally to them, they're close to, it's kind of consumes them, rightly so, for grief. But if you heard on the news that 1 million people have died in another country, it's like, oh, that's terrible. But anyway, what's for lunch? And they move on. And this was the thing with the Oxford cities. The councillor, who is a guy called Duncan Enright, I think I've got that right. What a sap of a man. And he was talking in Chipping Norton. So I went along there with a big group of people like 2 or 3 weeks ago and spoke to him very briefly. But they basically said, well, it's happening anyway, so there's no point you lot. It was quoted in, I think, one of the newspapers saying, well, it's going to happen anyway, so it doesn't really matter what you think. And it's a great example of some people wouldn't even care less if their freedoms were curtailed. And what that will do is they will allow you to leave your district 100 times a year. And after that, you will get fined, basically. So they'll have.
Hold on a minute. What? Hold on a minute. What do you mean they will allow you to leave?
Yeah, so they'll have like because they'll be sectioned into districts. You'll have like electronic gates, and obviously the cameras will be. And they don't even have to have gates, because as long as you've got electronic, like some kind of recognition of cars, you would register your vehicles, and therefore every time you go in and out, it tracks what you're doing, obviously. And if you go out over their allotted amount of times, then they will fine you, basically. So you're allowed out 100 times, up to 100 times a year. And a lot of people have gone, no, what? Hey, they won't do that. And you go, no, they are. I've been to the meetings. I've seen the council's own documents. And here's my point here. It's very easy. So I went along to it and stood and looked at this guy. And I mean, I'm guessing his testosterone is very low, nothing to do with it, but he doesn't sound like someone that inspires me that he's doing good for the people. He's either brainwashed or he's stupid or he's a liar. I don't know which one it is. But here's my point for men listening. You need to start looking at your own community first and seeing what you can do for it. I mean, I've got friends who have said, or a friend of a friend who said, oh, my son wants to go away to Ukraine and fight. And I said, really? Does he even fucking know where Ukraine is on the map? Well, no, but he's going to go away. And I said, listen, that great, very noble cause. What does he do in his own community? Well, nothing. Well, why don't you start with your local area and see what you can do there before you decide to go and, save the world and probably just get killed within 2 minutes elsewhere. And I see that so much now that people will support the latest thing with no understanding of the background behind it. And we shall see with the Oxford cities. I'll be writing about it on the Whole Man Academy letter, because it won't stop at Oxford. I'll give you a clue. It will be rolled out to all other cities. And before you know it, you go, oh, I'm just popping out. And you go, oh, not today. Why not? Well, because you've already been out too many times this year. And you go, So keep a lookout for that one, Rick. I know we could go down many rabbit holes, but let's talk about, I mean, you've set up some good stuff this year. So you've got the Untamed Man, the Wolfpack men's community, and Boy to Manhood. So let's start with the Untamed Man, because of course I know firsthand what that's like. Where did that come from? What was the idea?
That's a really good question. Untamed Man just developed as an idea about 2 years ago. I wanted a space for men to come together. I felt that the men's space or the messaging was very effeminate. It might cause some controversy, but if you hear me out, I feel like the movement is constantly about this toxic masculinity, which I don't believe exists. I think there's toxic behavior. There isn't toxic masculinity, and the scientific data, the biology report, everything signifies that it is a false movement. And I sat there, and it's all about basically feminizing men. And it was getting to a point where I'm like, everybody and every members retreat I've been on is like, oh, you need to, look at becoming more feminine and softer and all this shit. And it just wasn't sitting right. It wasn't sitting right with me. And I couldn't figure out why. I just knew that I liked feeling like a spunky man. Like I like feeling like I'm inspirational. I like being in my body. I like being around other men and kinesthetically inspiring. It brings out the best in me. And I'm like, I don't like how other men in this space and as a generalization, like some women are like, oh, we want more softness. You need to be more feminine. And I was just like, hold on a minute. Are they people that I would want to listen to? Are you people that I trust? When do I hear from you? What influence do you have on my life? What influence are you having in your communities, in your world? Like, what is this about? And I suddenly was just like, fuck this. I'm going to design something where men can lean in to being fierce and powerful and expressive. Because I think I looked at it with a bit of a what do you call it? Magnifying glass.
Yes.
And I was like, do you know what that's wrong with all this? The movement and the messaging is completely wrong. It's the polar opposite we need. The messaging needs to be, we need men, or men are yearning to be men again. And what is that? What is that? It's the beautiful masculine energy that we keep denying and making it really healthy, really powerful. And what is that? Healthy masculinity and men being fiercely passionate again means to be disciplined, means to have courage, means to have bravery. It means to find an edge. It means to look for responsibility rather than keep looking of ways not to have responsibility. It's all these beautiful qualities that just doesn't get put out as a message. It's like, oh, if you're passionate, if you're, overzealous in being those things, oh, you're a bad man. Like, if you're wild, and this is one thing, and this is your thing that came from, come back to your question, Anne, is the part of the untamed man is for men to lean back into their wild man. Like, every man wants to be wild, but the marketing, the PR stunt around becoming wild for the last 70 years has all been around. To be wild means to be reckless. It means to be unpredictable. It means to be aggressive. It means that we can't control you. And I'm like, that's not what wild is.
Yeah.
What wild is about knowing where you're going. And it means passionately and fiercely following that path. It means protectively standing for something and knowing exactly what you stand against and sticking up for what you stand for and sticking up for what you stand against. That's what being wild and fierce is, not what this PR stunt has been for the last 70 years to completely push and oppress men down who yearn to be in nature, who want to build fires, who want to connect with other men, who want to wrestle on the floor, who want a purpose, who want to feel passionate about giving and providing and protecting. So the untamed man got birthed out of that, for men to come to and just leave with not only skills and tools to learn how to be calm and get over and learn how to be less anxious and have some more peace within, but to leave with some fire in their belly and be like, wow, what just happened to me today? Because I can't wait to get home. I can't wait to crack on with life again. I can't wait to step into my fatherhood, my husbandhood. Like, I'm on fire right now. And it kind of got birthed out of that. And I'm a physical guy, so it was like, well, I want that day to not only have teachings around our psychological journey with tools to take away, but I'm a big believer in it's great the brain can understand something, but if you can't embody it and feel it throughout the body, real change for you and the people around you won't ever happen.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, great. I want to put breath work in that. I want to put a workout in that. I want to put a dynamic meditation where you get to, I mean, you've done it, Ant, a dynamic meditation. It is so expressive and connective, and it's looked at as taboo. And I'm like, no, like, for what that does in an area where you can't be judged, you're blindfolded, there's heavy tribal drum music going on, and you get to once in your life finally release all them emotions you've been, conscious and unconsciously hanging on to. Pent up, yeah. And whether that's swearing, whether it's screaming, whether it's chanting, whether it's hysterical laughter, and not be judged. Yet the public will see that and go, oh, that's taboo. But it's not taboo to read on the news that men are angry and repressed, so they rape or murder or fight or whatever else. We'll turn a blind eye to that. But oh my God, to see guys doing dynamic meditation in a park, or oh, I'm not too sure about that. That looks a bit taboo. I mean, come on, like use your common sense. What would you rather have guys come somewhere to express, or just keep reading these news stories? And it was like, let's create an environment for that to happen, where we can truly connect. And to finish the day in an ice bath, it's not just about, oh, it's an ice bath. The ice bath for all of us, I mean, I just shut it up my spine now, and I do one every day. It's about the fear, the vulnerability. It's the fact that Western culture has no rites of passage or initiation for men. Yeah. It's about, you know, like we've lost all rites of passage, all initiations from elder men who give a shit about younger men having something about them and bringing them into the community as blessed, seen and heard young men who can offer the community something. Like, them days are fucking gone, which is why young men now in society are yearning for belonging. They're yearning for connection. They're yearning to be blessed by elder men. And what do we do? Because elder men don't give that anymore for all different reasons, and we'll go into it in a minute. But like, that's why we have gangs. It's why we have tribes with wars. Why we have postcode wars. It's why we have like, yeah, they want to belong. And like all of us, we are willing to sacrifice everything we stand for and what we value just to belong to something. And we'll do whatever that initiation is, whether it's, you know, be given a knife and go and chiv someone, whether it's go to university and humiliate, you know, have initiation through humiliation just for you to be part of something. You'll be willing to go and do it because you're so yearning unconsciously to be blessed and seen and to belong to something. And the undercurrent of all those things, Ant, is you still don't trust, and you still know you're not safe, because you still know unconsciously you've done something that goes against your values, whether you've been humiliated in a drinking game, whether it's rugby and you're dropped off a mile away from your clubhouse and you run back naked, whether it's being given a knife to go and stab someone. Deep inside, we all know, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is going against everything that I want to stand for, but I'll go along with it because I'll be accepted. And we're made to believe that acceptance means that, oh, it's okay, this space is safe. But the undercurrent is, you know, it's not, because you never know when the people you just done that for are going to turn back for you to do it again. So for me, it was like, well, this is a men's day to go through check-in circles, to be taught about yourself, to get into your body, to express, to undergo breath work that allows you to go in and overcome the constant thinking process and doing process we're in, to work out, not for competition, but for connectedness. And then to finish the day building infrastructure, to finish the day as a group of men that stand around an ice bath, to bless each man in that moment, to get in, to all understand that we're all crapping ourselves, that we're going to get seen to be scared and vulnerable, but we know we're going to have to do it. For me, it was like, I have to finish the day on that. Every man has to finish the day on that, to feel initiated and blessed, who's been on a journey with other guys, elder and younger today, that have seen me for all I am, in all my emotions, in all my physicality and my vulnerability. And you've been there, Anne. Every man gets out of that. There's no ego attached. It's not like you have to do 2 minutes. Like, no one cares. The fact you've done it says, like, you just showed courage and bravery and vulnerability. And every man that gets out, and no one's encouraged to do this, it just happens. Every man that gets out gets a high five, gets hugged without thinking of it. The feminine energy, because we've become so deeply masculine, automatically comes out. So all this feminization of men's bollocks. Men have to learn how to really get masculine again, because the byproduct is the softness appears. And you've seen it. Every man gets out of the bath or the ice bath, and a man will pick up his towel, put the towel round it for him, give him a hug. All that beautiful feminine energy of nurture, softness, compassion, empathy, connection. Like,
you took me back to it when you said, because firstly I thought doing the ice bath at the end, there's several points to pick up on here, but the start of the day I thought was really important, because you're not just going along and like hang out, you're actually learning something and learning about yourself. But what I said about the physical side of things towards the end, when we did a kind of a, let's call it a team workout, was that I haven't pushed myself that hard for years because I haven't had competition. And, you know, when I was doing the world championships and training for that, I always had competition, either in my mind, I must get faster, stronger. And then it's very easy to let yourself slightly go when you haven't got something to push yourself for. And I was fucked when I finished, but it felt so good to do that, to then get in the ice bath. And I remember, like you just said, the important thing was there was young guys. I was what, 43 last year, but there was probably guys there that were maybe 18, 19, plus guys older than me. And I think in equal measure, it's so important for the younger and the, let's call it more mature men, to experience this, because there's hardly anything else around like this. Now, there are some, you know, being in the men's space as you and I am, I see some other things around. There's some others that are really good. There's others that for me look really shit. And I look and I'm like, do you know what? I take my back to when I worked in the city. Everything I create for the Whole Man Academy is for the man I was when I worked there, you know, to help me 6 years ago through sleepwalking through life. But some of the events I see for men, I realize I can't take the piss too much, because I'm like, do you know what? It's just not my thing. But what you created, and we know we want to kind of bring that to the guys through the Whole Man Academy, is something that a guy won't forget. And, you know, you said about the ice bath. For me, the ice bath, even if you're just getting in and out, it's like it's sealed the end of the day with something that you've achieved, which I know is like cold showers and stuff as well. But you've got more of them coming up in, is it in January, your next one, which I think is already either sold out or you've got a good amount of people coming to it?
Yeah, we've got end of Jan. So we've got, what have I got? I think half the tickets I've sold privately. The other half are on Eventbrite. So the intention is to do it either every 2 or every 3 months. Like I think I wanted to run it 4 times a year again. So it'd be sort of quarterly. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Ant. You know, like I'm much the same. You know, I was just looking on, and like it's just not my thing. You know, to begin with, I was looking on, being like, oh, what is all this about? And you know, them feelings. And then I was like, it's just not my thing. And if it's not my thing, then surely there's other men out there that are looking and yearning for a different message. You know, and like you said, the workout, it's about team. You know, like men yearn for team. You know, they yearn for environments other men are in. And we all know that competition brings comparison. Comparison's the thief of joy. So it was, okay, if we can create an environment for men to be in their bodies, where we go back primitively to moving for a greater purpose. What's the greater purpose for all of us? Our deepest why is always another person. So if we can get a workout in teams of 3 or 4 guys that can communicate and look at each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then that moment, because of the time of day we've done it, when everything's built up, everyone's able to go, all right, I'm fucked, can you take over? Yeah, of course I will, brother.
I need help.
I need help. Exactly. And that's why them workouts are designed like that. And there's no competition, as why there's no like race. Because what do we do during that workout? The fitter ones of us who finish our team join in with the others. And we're either shouting and spurring each other on, or like last time we had, the age range was 21 to 67, like 12 guys, and I had 21-year-old and a 67-year-old and everything in between. And it was a case, 67-year-old gave everything, and a 21-year-old and a couple of other of us were like wanting to get involved. But then you dip into the integrity, because you've got to ask yourself the question, what's allowing me to want to take over? Because every man also wants to earn his stripes. So you've got to recognize that another man, for him to understand and read another person's body language and cherish what he's telling you. No, please don't butt in. Because he's saying to you, I want to show you and I want to prove to myself that I can get this done. And then he gets this done. He's like, thanks very much for your offer. Thank you for offering to help me. You just opened up a whole new communication channel for me. But I also learned that, like you said, I can still push myself. And that makes me feel amazing.
And do you know what? We're talking about the age range thing as well. I guess that also, we'll talk about the boy to manhood stuff you're doing. But I'm seeing, having nephews myself who are like young teenagers, through the schooling and what shit is being taught to them and forced to be taught. Now, I've had some interesting conversations about that, which we'll come on to, but I think it's great for you know, us guys in our, let's say 40s and upwards, it's very rare we'll have gone to that, but getting the younger guys to come along to normalize those kind of really powerful days in your 20s. You know, if you go to 1 or 2 a year, by the time you're 30, you'll have learned so much more about yourself. I just wanted for you in this last, I mean, since creating the Untamed Man and the Wolfpack men's community and the boys man, what do you think you've learned about yourself?
Oh my God, you got me right off guard on that one. I like that. What a question. What an absolute brilliant question. I think what I've learned about myself is there's a bigger picture than just me. That connection's everything. Like connection is everything. And I've realized that actually my life, for me personally, becomes far more purposeful now that I'm more selfless. That I realize that this is really needed. It's given me a lot of peace. It's given me, I say, the opportunity to be more trusting in myself, more trusting that the world wants to move for me. That if I follow my path, and I really believe we're all in one. There's Jordan Peterson YouTube video, an hour long. I forwarded it to you today. That was amazing. And he says in there about sitting on the edge of your bed and asking yourself a really honest question as what am I doing every day is absolutely destroying me, that I'm taking actions in or paying attention to that's destroying everything that I should be here for. And it was such a powerful question. And I was like, this year was a year that I've kind of sat in that and taken everything away. That for me, I knew inside. I knew inside I had to bring this to life, no matter whatever hardships I've had to go through this year, financially, personally. I knew I had to bring Boy to Manhood to life. And I had a mission 18 months ago to get that into independent schools. And I stopped procrastinating and had the opportunity to do it because it was a broader picture.
Yeah.
You know, it was initially like, I've got this message, I want to get it out to, oh my God, teachers and parents could really do with this help.
Absolutely, because the kids are, how can I put it? They're kind of passengers, really, because it's about who's allowing them to be taught this stuff. Because, like you say, you can create brilliant content, and it might be powerful for the boys, but if the teachers can't see the value in it and the parents, then it's a waste of time.
Yeah, because it became a broader picture. It was like, boys need this, and as I stood back, it was like, oh my God, teachers aren't taught this stuff either. So it's like, as soon as I surrendered to that, and parents aren't taught it, like teachers aren't taught about inner GPS, how that then links to VAC models, like learning modalities and mirror behavior and trigger behavior from tonality, from language, from all this stuff. You know, and I won't bore with the details. I could talk about hours for it, but it was just like, oh my God, if I can help boys understand and have teachers in the room at the same time, this is going to have a far deeper impact than I could ever have imagined.
Yeah, that thing
And
of
I'm grateful, mate, that I'm just very, very grateful that come the end of this year, in the last 2 months, like people are looking at that and going, oh wow, like we aren't educated on that. Our degree didn't touch any of that. Teaching qualifications don't touch any of that stuff. Like my CPD that we get given by the school doesn't teach us any of those things, and they're all the most important things for us to transfer to kids, to help them have the best learning experience they get in these formative years. And I'm grateful that schools are now coming forward going, yes, Rick, we could really do with this.
I think it's literally should be fucking celebrated that schools are. I'm mildly surprised that they're allowing you to even come in. And what I mean by that is because some of the schools have become so woke with their bullshit and their restrictions and forcing kids to learn things that they don't particularly want to and shouldn't be learning, certainly not at a young age, that I think it's great news that you can have someone on the flip side of it like yourself that can go in and present like a different view on an agreeable view for me on like where boys should be going, especially. I mean, I know, and I've written about this before, either in the Whole Man Academy e-letter, but like I know at some schools, especially at Warwick, where they were told they had a thing called banter is bullying, and you're like, and I wrote about it and said, banter isn't bullying. There's a line between it, but banter, if you can't get fucking used to people taking the piss and having a laugh with you and a joke and what have you, then you are going to melt as soon as you get out into the real world. They also got told that one of the boys said that someone was fit and good looking, a girl, and they were told they're not allowed to say that. Another boy said, I think walked into a room and there was something about, said, all right, there's no need to have a mother's meeting. And the teacher told him it was misogynistic to say that and shouldn't be saying it. And you're like, wow, you're really trying to control the way the kids think, not just about what they learn. But on the flip side of that, here's my point. You can't, if you're going to put your kids in school, you can't spend all your time complaining about what they're being taught, because you're still putting your kids in school. So for me, it's good that they're allowing someone like you to come in and give a completely, probably a much needed different opinion on, you know, helping a boy understand where the fuck he's going in life.
And yeah, there's a few things I can touch on that. Like I come in with a different viewpoint, and I'm invited back because thankfully, because that different viewpoint. I delivered in a boarding house school in Sussex, and I won't name the company and the speaker, but they've had other people come in and send a message, and you think these boys aren't getting affected. And I had a group of 14 to 17 year olds who harnessed a lot of anger, who harnessed a lot of feeling like they have to hide themselves. They feel like they can't contribute or air their opinion. And in their words, they're like, with an anger behind this. And this is the thing with all this messaging is why are we made to be so ashamed to be boys? I'm so scared to talk to a girl now, because if I tell her that I find her attractive, apparently that's being seen as misogynistic. That's seen as I'm being a toxic man. I'm being a toxic boy. I don't even know what to do. How do I even tell her? How do I have a relationship?
Yeah.
How can I get a girlfriend now? Because we're not talking one boy. This was a boarding house of 38 boys, and I'm having to field all these questions at the start, and then I take him on the journey of psychological journey of man. And halfway through, I wrote on there and I said out loud, boys, I want to be like, we should be effing proud to be men, like male. Like, I want you to be absolutely vehemently proud to be boys. And this is why, because this is our qualities. And I want you to own them, because this is what it brings to the world. Like, don't listen to the world saying all this, because if you're more of this, this is what we really need. And mate, 38 boys at boarding house up, cheering, clapping, high-fiving each other, cuddling each other, like boys cuddling each other. And I got told before that I don't expect to get much out of them. No, fuck you. Like, I'll get a lot out of them. And I'm going to re-energize these boys to be extremely proud boys who are in their, and you said it earlier, pillars of the community in that school. And I'm going to help them understand that a boarding house has a unofficial hierarchy of elders down to youngers. And I want to empower them elders to completely change the culture and script in that boarding house, to make them youngers feel safe enough to come to them when they have a problem in study or anything else. And rather than hide in their rooms and separate themselves from everybody else because they have fear of being vulnerable, I want the 14-year-olds to look and go, hold on a minute, Jack, who's, you know, the top of this house, has been through what I've been through, and I'm sitting in my room on my own in fear of being vulnerable because I've got a question about some of the study I'm doing. I want to flip that. I want all these boys to go, no, like, I'm a male in this boarding house, in this school. I want to be approachable. I want other people to know that I'm compassionate, because I want people to know that I'm reliable, disciplined, and I know what path I'm on. And when you know them things, all of a sudden you can be compassionate and empathetic and nurturing. And this is what gets lost in all the messages. And to see 38 boys start cheering, and then I get an email 2 weeks later saying, Rick, please can you come in, deliver to every other boarding house? The boys are still so vocal and animated from having you in, and are literally begging us for you to come back. Like, Anne, what does that tell you?
I tell you what, and there was a question here which is going to be I've already answered it for you, but what's your biggest challenge with that? And it won't be the boys, it will be the school's own indoctrination system, if that makes sense. And that is the hard thing, isn't it? Because you know, you've only got to look at, if you do your research of like where the universities get their funding from, you know, when you go back to it, they're using such an outdated system when in fact actually they're using you know, some of the things that boys or kids, you know, in general are being taught, you know, it comes from the very top of who's trying to manipulate people. So I see that as so important that, like you say, you're getting a great reaction and they're saying, bring Rick in and he can talk to all these different boys, because fucking hell, they need it in between not spending the whole time on social media and comparing themselves to others. The words when you were talking about, I had in my head were like being comfortable in their own skin.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
I think a lot of boys will be confused about, you know, what they should or shouldn't say. What can you question things? I mean, you and I know the most important thing you can probably teach a kid at the moment is to question things. You know, is to say, hold on a minute, just because
what
that's
about
how
boys, mate?
yeah,
You need to train most adults in constantly question and explore things.
that's it. And do you know what, that's the thing? And I know we just kind of touched on it, but you know, you feel like there might be a lost generation of men who are maybe my age, maybe 10 years younger, who are so brainwashed by the media and everything else that it sounds harsh, but there's probably no point trying to get through to them. But the children that I heard a saying once, you know, when you're born, you're like a beautiful diamond, and then basically you get covered in shit as you get older by what you consume, what you read, what you hear, who you hang around with. But those boys at the moment are still a fairly kind of a clean jewel, ready to kind of, you know, try and stay that way before they get covered in all the indoctrination that goes through it. So, well, my other question on that was, again, the dangers that men are facing today, because I think there's multiple ones, but one of the big things to me is about censorship generally, and that being censored personally at schools, or, you know, not being shown certain information. But I wonder if what do you feel like the kind of the dangers for men that are facing at the moment?
John, mate, just before you say that's what you said, saying earlier on about what's the challenge in the schools. I
Yes.
just want to quickly, just only quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
It's not a juggling act, but I'm very conscious that the boys are in the school, and the school they are trying to do their best for the boys. And what I try and do with the boys is empower them and teach them about their own learning models, so that we get them proud to be male again. We get them proud to be boys again, and fired up for that. Because you know, as far as I'm concerned, we need passionate, energetic young men with direction.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. For me, it's almost like my life's purpose is to help create that. And with that is the self-realization of helping them helps the school.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try and do with the boys is go, look, there might be subject matters that you are not so interested in, but maybe it's just because you don't. And this is where the teachers have come to me and gone, I don't know anything about that. Can you teach me about that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And I teach the boys about value systems, you know, like they love being in nature. They love health and well-being. They love friendships. So it's knowing what your 4 to 5 innate GPS drivers are. And then it's understanding what the behavior comes in certain subjects off of that. So how does someone auditory, how is someone responding? Kinesthetically, how does someone respond in the area of interest for them? So say someone doesn't like science, they become disruptive, they can become disinterested, they become reclusive. And the teacher goes, oh, we've got a disruptive child, or oh, he's failing, or whatever. So you label him. Like I said to one teacher who said, oh, he's disruptive boy. I'm like, no, you just labeled him. You've got a boy and you've got disruption. They're two very different things. You just put them together and gave it a big label. And I was like, they're separate things. You need to look at the disruption of the boy, not disruptive boy. Why is he disruptive? What's his value systems? In what subject is disruptive?
Yeah,
Does he go within it? Exactly. Where's his energy? Where does he direct conversation? Where does it look like he has energy for? Where does he look like he spends his time? Understand him, and then look at his preferred learning model in your subject matter. Is he expressive with his hands? Does he like to talk? Where does he fail? Is it looking at a whiteboard and seeing what you've written, or is that where he thrives? If it's any of those three, let's look at the hierarchy of what their needs are, and start to personalize the human rather than blanket his teaching experience, because then you can look at modalities and tools and ways and strategies to get him engaged in that class. He may not thrive, but ultimately we want that child to look forward to coming or have at least a neutral response to that class, to enable him to try and get better experience, better results, better opportunity from it, whatever gloss we want to put on it. But because teachers aren't taught in a GPS, they're not taught values, they're not taught VAC models, they're not taught how to use all these tools, it ends up becoming a blanket approach. And what happens at blanket approach is that boy then goes down a set. So he'll lose his friendship group to go down a set in science.
Get labelled, as you said.
Gets labelled. He then has to strategically behave around the new people in that group who aren't naturally his friendship group. That distance then also becomes an isolation, because the relationship he's got with the people who he wants to be with makes him in turn go, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I can't be part of that group because I've been separated. So then we create an inner dialogue of isolation, which then creates strategic behaviors to fit in with the new group, which then creates separation from other elements of his school. So it's far bigger than anyone ever thinks of what this like does, of the void of what teachers' knowledge isn't given to them.
I think
so. My challenge is always for the schools to realize I'm actually on their side. And if they're open to it, I can help the school, which helps the boys, and the boys get to help the school in turn.
And you would hope then that, as the boys grow, they can then, like kind of pass that on to, be it younger brothers or younger kids at school and stuff like that. And that's part of the thing for me is about, it's funny because a lot of what you said, you could apply then to a man in his 20s or 30s, because a lot of what you teach and what I try and talk about on the e-letter, we haven't been taught at school. So it becomes slightly alien to you. I saw a post on LinkedIn, and we'll talk about LinkedIn, but where it was a girl that had kind of said, I'm taught all this stuff, which is I'm not saying everything at school is useless, but I've taught a lot of stuff that you apply it to the real world is fucking useless, but I haven't been taught all the, the more important stuff. And even if you start with, taking care of yourself, your proper health, fitness, your mindset, setting goals, assessing where you are in life, contemplating life, as Neil Kramer would say. So I just think that's really important. What the word that came up for me there was also, you're trying to build leaders. And it doesn't mean that leaders mean that they just get to tell everybody else what to do, but leading their family, their community, their business, their whatever. So kind of what's your take on, because I was going to ask you about leadership. Obviously you've been in the fire brigade, you've been in rugby, so you've been around those very, how to put it, hierarchical systems. For guys that wouldn't have listened to your previous podcast, can you give me a very potted history of where you were, from when you kind of left, let's say, schooling to the roles you had? Because then they'll maybe understand a bit more of what you went through, also with the wheelchair issue as well.
Oh God, yeah. Left school, signed a professional rugby contract, didn't quite work out. Broke my spine, collapsed 2 discs, wheelchair bound for 18 months. Got myself back from that. Lost, disillusioned with the world. 21, 22. Managed to teach myself to walk again, get myself physically kind of capable. Went on a bit of a journey to find out what I wanted to do with my life. Huge voids. Became a firefighter at 25 for London. Spent 10 years there. Went back to play semi-pro rugby again during that period. Became a personal trainer. Became an educator. Became an assessor. So taught all the personal training syllabus as well as PT. Left the fire brigade 7 years ago to concentrate basically on strength and conditioning and education. 5 years ago, got into life coaching, so neuro-linguistic NLP programming, kind of CBT, shadow work, timeline therapy, all that kind of stuff. So I became just a coach, started using that with my clients with PT. That quickly went on to just working with anyone from athletes to other firefighters to CEOs to MDs to whatever it was. And then it kind of opened its own door to the last sort of 3 years, which almost exclusively being with men and boys. Still work with the odd female. That's generally been the story. Like there's having all my own shit in there, there's a lot of resilience has been bought or been born out of all that. A lot of figuring out. I've had quite a lot. I've always had a massive awareness and like a real good skill with people. Like I've always known that. since I was at school. And, you know, like I'd be like an agony aunt, like hours on the phone to people having problems. And I was like 13, 14, 15. And my like girls, all my mates crying on the phone, like, oh, can you help me, Rick? I'm going through this. And that I always had that as a rugby captain, as a crew manager in the brigade. Like my soft skills have always been the thing that bonds people.
Yeah.
And
Good
it's always, yeah, like people always concentrate on strategy and logical reason for performance. And I've always looked at that and been like, I've kind of always found performance always increases with really good people skills. Like understanding people, for them to understand themselves, for them to understand others, to get the best out of each other. And all of a sudden, once you've got them down, then you can sprinkle the stardust on the back of that. But generally, I find them, yeah, but the world we live in is like, oh no, strategy, logics, and then we might sprinkle a little bit of this other stuff you call soft skills or people skills. Like, you know, I'm always like, you've got the foundations fucked here, mate. Like it's the other way around.
Everyone wants a shortcut. You know,
yeah, everyone
wants a pill or a hack that can get everything done faster and quicker. And you're like, you know, sometimes you got to put in the fucking hours.
Yeah, and I always feel like everyone wants to quickly look at science and research. And someone said to me the other day, so this will make you laugh. I got asked to deliver a workshop for a uni, and I said to the guy a couple of words in there of like a man's psychological journey. And he went, "Oh, how do you feel about being challenged?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good at challenge.
Bring it on.
I like being challenged." Yeah. He's like, "Why do you like being challenged?" I'm like, "Because it'd be someone else's viewpoint that's different to mine, which means I can learn something extra about what I'm delivering and what I've missed. So it's good. Like I like it. It also enables me to share with someone else."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, because when we run the workshop, I don't want anyone to disagree with you." I went, "We're not running the workshop." He was like, "What?" He went, "Oh, we're going to pay you really good money." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care." I'm like, I'm not here in this world to not upset people. Like, and that's the problem, that we are diluting everything for mass agreement.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, what comes with that is the lack of balls to stand up for something, which comes back to what you said originally about community and standing up for something much closer to home than the bigger picture. But you know, we could go off on a massive tangent on that. I can't remember the original question now, Ant.
Well, the reason I asked you to kind of reshare your, let's call it your journey / story, whatever you want to call it, was also, it's a good reminder to guys that maybe, you know, if you took a certain point back there in time, you probably would never have believed that you would be where you are now, going to schools and teaching these. And, you know, when you were playing rugby or in the fire service. And it just reminds you that, you know, we'll say guys go through phases, and a phase might get cut short because of an injury, or a phase might just be like, for me in the city, I was like, do you know what? I'm done with this. But you never know kind of what's coming in a few years' time. And it's very easy to guys sometimes to be so busy just living in the moment, which is nothing wrong with that, but not spending time looking at what would I like to achieve. You know, maybe what you're doing now isn't what you want to do for 5, 10, 20 years. And the sooner you start doing the inner and outer work, the sooner you can kind of start moving in that way. So what's your kind of routine at the moment for keeping, you know, healthy, fit and what have you? What are the kind of things you're generally are, what's the word, is non-negotiable?
Right. I don't go to the gym anymore. I just don't fight. I say I don't go to the gym. There's one place I go to once or twice a week. It's a CrossFit box. I don't do CrossFit. I train with the owner. He's the same age as me. So he's in his 40s. And that, you know, it's like, and as soon as you get past 35, a lot changes.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot more responsibility that you want to take on and whatever else. My go-tos are hydration. So as far as my own health and well-being, like my hydration is my number one. I could try and get 2 to 4 liters of water in every day, a cold shower or an ice bath every morning. And there's so many facets of why I do that. Like, I don't want to do it. So for me to voluntarily put myself through something with no audience, no cheerleading, no one else around, like 5:30, 6 in the morning in the darkness, it tells me a deeper message about myself. Like, not only am I willing to put myself through it, but 2, I'm like, I go into my breathing. So it tells myself the message, I can find calmness. Like when the shit hits the fan during the day and stress comes, I know I can find calmness by bringing myself back into my breath. And then there's all the other benefits of the ice bath, like, you know, like increasing your central nervous system that allows you to not get as ill as much, all the rest of it. You know, I'm
It's
not
your
going to bore
first win
everyone
of
with
the
that.
day as well. You know, for me, it is that. I mean, basically, nearly every, especially in the winter, it's a lot easier in the summer when it's warm outside. But it is every morning. I'm like, I have excuses why I won't do it, and then I'm like, no, fuck off. Like, come on, you got to do it. And then afterwards, you're like, that's your first win of the day.
Yeah. And it's something as well. I was talking to someone this morning about this. It's great having a cold shower indoors. I know not everyone's got access to it, but there is something absolutely magical of doing it outside.
Yeah.
Like being really connected with the earth and nature again. But yeah, that's like a non-negotiable for me. Working out is another one. Like I do every morning, I have a 15-minute stretch and like movement routine. That's non-negotiable. And I work out. And as I've got older and everything, the movement and the yoga has become an absolute staple to my day.
Yeah.
And the working out, like I've just stripped it back. You know, I've got sandbags, I've got kettlebells, and all I do is I just use all my whole body movements.
Mm.
You know, like whole body movements. I always say I want to be useful. Like I don't see the point in this. I get it. We have gyms, and them gyms play on people's voids. Like one of those voids is the need for connection. And
Mm.
that's what a gym is really good for, bringing
Yeah.
people together to connect. What are the large majority of gyms made for? Let's play on people's insecurities. Like if we can build over the last 50 years, insecurities around body image, around what body image can do for opportunities. Let's build a social media platform that's all about visual aid. Let's build a platform where for acceptance of self is to look a certain way. To look a certain way means we can sell a product. That product we can call protein. That protein, if you actually do the research, is made from all the scum and the crap that's left over off a cheese, blended up with all other ingredients to make it tasty. Then if we get a really good PR team to market that, we create $1 billion
Big business.
industry that plays on people's voids.
Yeah.
And I for a long time, I've always looked to be like, what the heck? We've got men looking in mirrors, and most women don't look at men and go, oh yeah, wow, he's jacked.
Yeah.
Like men make the excuse they're doing it for like women, or doing it to feel better about trying to attract the opposite sex. You ask any man who compliments them the most, other men, which gives you the undercurrent again that we're yearning for men to be recognized by other men. But what we're doing at the moment is a self-fulfilling prophecy of insecurity, trying to fill it. I'm going off tangent, but that's one of the reasons why I
No,
left the gym, because
we always say trying to give people or men, something to think about. And you know what? I'd never thought of that until we moved away from London, because I always used to go to the gym that was, I was belonged to like the Virgin Active, because there was a massive one near me and one near my office. And it wasn't until we moved up to the countryside. We've got our own really big home gym, which has got, bike, squat rack, power plates, boxing, kettlebells, rower, battle rope, slam balls, all the things you need. And people think, oh, that was great. But you know what? I really miss going to the gym and just seeing other people. And I didn't talk to people at my other gym, but it was the fact you'd be there and there'd be a girl squatting over there who had a bottom like a little peach, and you'd enjoy watching that for a minute. Then there'd be a guy over there you might just say hello to. You'd be like, oh, what's he doing? And it was just the social side of it that people, the old be careful what you wish for. A lot of people, like when they know I've got a big home gym, or putting, oh, that'd be great, I wish I had that. And you go, yeah, it's really good. It's a good tool. But do you know what I miss is going to the gym and just being around other people. I tell you, what I loved from the gym that I used to go to down in Bickley, down in Bromley, there was a guy called Tamer Hussain, I think it is. So he's the actor that was in
I know, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of different gangster movies and whatever the one is with Danny Dyer. But what I loved about him, he used to go to the gym and he'd be in like a fully, I know I'm making this up, but like, the matching tracksuit and trousers and like pristine trainers. And he'd have a towel wrapped around his shoulders, and he'd basically just go on the walker for about 10 minutes, and he'd be bowling along the walker, and people would walk past and be like, all right, Tamer, all right. And he'd just do that. And I was like, he's not doing a proper workout at the time, but it is about, you've got all these people that come and say hello to you. And now I miss, because if you've got your own gym, you're just in there on your own, which is good sometimes, but sometimes you need a bit of social side of things.
And how ironic is all of that? And that he went to a gym to say hello.
Yeah.
And this is something I always find hilarious when I see people go to the gym and go on a running machine, they walk out, and I'm like,
yeah,
you literally pay whatever membership you're paying when you could just walk out your front door and you could run on the streets, or if you want to go for a walk, you can walk on the streets and say hello to every bypasser.
Yeah. So we're into New Year, obviously, now listening to this. I mean, we're recording this just before Christmas, but therefore a lot of guys, to state obvious, will be looking at and being, do you know what? I've maybe put on a few pounds over Christmas, understandable, because it is, I do love a mince pie and everything else that goes with it. But it is about now, the big thing also, if you're in the UK, is the shit weather. You know, it's going to probably be freezing cold and the nights are at least getting longer slowly. But the big thing for, I think, you and I is getting out into nature. And if you can get out and work out in nature as well, then more the better than being under fake lights and what have you.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I talk about this a lot, about environment and identity and your outcomes. That first of all, you got to sit in your identity. Like before you make any goals, before you try and create a system to get there, like Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about this. The most important aspect is taking the time to sit in identity. Like it's going, okay, what do I want to achieve? And then look at what you want to achieve and ask yourself the question, like, who does that man surround himself with? What environment does he go in? What books would he read? What podcasts does he listen to?
Yeah.
Who does he surround himself with? What nutrition would he eat? Would he cut away? Would he keep or cut away social media? Is it feeding him? Or is it consuming him? Like you got to ask all these questions about identity, because then you sit there and go, fuck. Like if I want to feel alive and flexible and connected and light, do I want to go to gym with set headphones in, bang weights? No. Well, if I want to be connected and light and flexible, what do I need to do? Okay, I probably need to be outside. I'd probably like to walk, which might lead to a bit of a run, actually. Oh, yeah, that's what I love doing. Well, okay, brilliant. That ticks my boxes, because the guy that would do that, the outcome of the man that this creates, oh, yeah, now I'm in alignment. Oh, now I need a system. What's my system? Right, okay, I probably need to hire a PT to get me started. I could probably do with learning a bit of mobility because I want to be flexible. Yeah. So all of a sudden, you create the identity, which then enables you to create the systems, which creates your action step to get on the outcome.
I was going to say, it's men giving themselves the time to think of these things as well, because men can be so busy, and we've all probably been guilty of it at some point, that if you said, and again, especially we're talking about the start of the year, which, there's maybe too much emphasis on restarting at the start of the year as opposed to people thinking they can restart it at any point. But there'll be a lot of men reflecting on, maybe I could get a bit healthier, eat better, think better, and what have you. And like you said, it's about actually giving yourself time to start with, because a lot of people will be like, I haven't got time to think about it. Like, yes, you fucking have.
Mate, you know what? It's that time. Like everyone treats life like it's infinite, and it's not. Like our energy, our time, it isn't infinite. It's finite, and it's going sitting there. Like Jordan Peterson said, and to quote Rick Cooper on this one, you're sitting on your bed to go, what the fuck do I really want? Who do I really want to be?
Yeah.
And like, they're deep questions to ask yourself. Like, what do I really want? Because I'm not here forever. Like my time is finite, my energy is finite, my attention is finite.
Yeah.
Like it isn't fucking endless, and it's all going to come to a massive stop, and I don't know when.
I mean, look, we've probably got about another 40 years left. If I'm 44, if I get to 84, will I be happy with that? Depends how I'm living, because I'd rather live well than live, till you're 100 and in some care home, although you'd probably be finished off by the government by then anyway. But isn't that important though, to ask yourself these questions? And again, going back to the whole Man Academy e-letter, so much of that is, I don't say to a guy he's going to read it and suddenly his life's going to be transformed, but I get lots of messages from guys that say, I really enjoyed this week. It made me think about this, that, and the other. And I don't think there's many opportunities. I mean, when you look at what men might read at the moment, I mean, you've got the newspapers, which are all just lies, propaganda, and agenda driven anyway. Then you've got things like Men's Health, which I used to read a lot. Then I realized it was basically the same thing regurgitated year after year. And then you have to understand that that will have its own agenda, either A, to sell the products that it advertises in there, or I was looking at the other day where Men's Health becomes, it starts going into the woke agenda of telling people what to think and being a social justice warrior. And you're like, just stick to fucking health and fitness. That's why I'm reading it. But you look around and like for yourself, it's like, where do men go to consume good content? Because there's not much of it about.
I always, I text a client this morning, what can you let go of to let come? Like, and it's understanding that everything wants your attention. Everything wants your attention. So what can you let go of to find out where to go?
Yeah.
To let things come. Like I do it all the time. I've literally cut off every subscription email apart from one because I want to be clear on the messages. I've got literally 12 books already for 2023. I'm not buying any more because if I finish one, I'll read it and I want to study it. And otherwise, everywhere I look is going to tell me, oh, read this book, read that, but this one would be good. Every podcast, like I'll stick to probably two podcasts, and I do that in quarters. I don't want to be distracted, so I'll be like, okay, like I want to listen to the High Performance was one last year, 3 months of High Performance, and a Joe Cole one because I like the banter, I like it was lighter, and then I'll section myself another 2 for 3 months, like because I want to get into a line with it. I want to feel it. Like, is this my thing? Is it not? And that's not me being rigid. If anything, that's me being disciplined, because discipline creates freedom. Get rid of all the noises. There's a reason why I shut down my Instagram. I shut down my Facebook. I shut down Twitter. I shut down TikTok. And I was just like, right, I've got one account, LinkedIn. How effective can I make this for me?
Yeah.
You know, like
that's important. I mean, I wanted to talk briefly about LinkedIn because it's the same, you know, we on the podcast, we talk a lot and always have done about social media. You know, we've talked to guys that have got 1 million followers, and we've talked to guys who have got a small amount or have never been on social media. And I was joking, there was a guy who lives in our village, or sorry, doesn't live in our village, but lives locally, who runs a business, pays himself about 80 grand a year, I would wager, something like that. Has got a selection of staff, gives all the staff Friday afternoons off, so they're all happy. And he's never ever been on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, doesn't even have accounts on them. And I was like, I fucking hate you. Like, that's brilliant. That's amazing. Like, it's so funny how I'm trying to think who it was that said, everybody wants to be rich and famous. Try just being rich first, because being famous and having big social media accounts brings its own issues. So for you, what was it like when you got rid of your, you know, LinkedIn, sorry, not LinkedIn, but Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that? Feel good?
Initially, I'm not going to lie, Anne, it was really hard.
Yeah.
Like really, really hard.
Fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like turning your phone off. Like I've got back in the habit of turning it off for the weekend, and that first like 12 hours, 18 hours is like, oh, you get that like FOMO. You think you're missing out. You think that you need to contribute somehow. You know, like all these fears and voids that we've got, or all of us have got them, get played upon. And then the longer you can withstand it, the longer you're like, oh, that's what's going on right in front of me. Like, and people don't get it because you explain it to them. You like, oh, you get to concentrate on your family a bit more. Like, you listen better. You're aware of what's going on. Oh no, I'm already aware of what's going on in my house. I'm already really listening to what's going on. I'm already giving that my attention. And it's a bit like we said this earlier, like trying to tell people that don't do it, think they do it, and you're banging your head against a wall until the person does it.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh my God, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
And it was like that for me. Like after the first week or two, and Instagram, after 6 months, I reopened an account. And 2 weeks in, I suddenly realized, oh my God, I unconsciously changed my behaviors without thinking.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at things, I'm consuming. So I realized I was going to gym again. I started going to gym 4 days a week because of what I paid attention to on Instagram. And I never really realized I did it. It was because I started looking and without realizing, I was comparing. In my brain, I'd suddenly built this model of, oh yeah, if I get big and muscly again, I'll get more business. I'll be more respected. And it was like, it became such an unconscious thought And I was creating all this stress in my life by trying to go to the gym 4 days a week, by being in pain again 4 days a week,
Yeah.
by not doing the yoga routine, going when Clay got home from school. So I missed out on 2 hours every evening with him. And it was like, oh my God, 2 weeks later, I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
this was all come by the consumption of social media. Deleted it, and all of a sudden it was like, I've got massive clarity again.
Yeah.
I've got more time. My behaviors are way more in alignment with who I really am in my stomach and my heart.
Yeah. I think
And you
isn't
just
that
become,
so important to hear that though, because a lot of people can be transfixed on, like, you know, the more followers, the better. And I remember being at, and people assume that if you've got loads of followers, you'll be earning lots of money. But I know certain people, and probably you do, who have got loads of followers and actually haven't learned how to monetize it. And they end up living, I mean, I look at some of my friends and, you know, love them, but they spend their whole life living through social media and have to share everything that they do, everywhere that they go. And you're just like, I wonder if one day, maybe they won't, but we'll look back. If you were shown how much, even if you didn't, if someone at the end of your life said, hey, I've totted up all the hours you've spent on social media, scrolling and looking at other shit on there, would you, you know, what might you have done with that time? And even if it was just relax and spend time with your family, it's something for me that in 2023, I will be trying to be more mindful of as well, because with the Whole Man Academy, obviously we have Instagram and I'm posting more on LinkedIn. But you know, I was the same. We had Twitter, and I just was like, do you know what? I just like basically I took the app off my phone, so the account's still there, but we just don't bother with anything. One of the big things I would suggest for guys, which I've found useful, is if you do need to post because of work, business, whatever it is, then using something like Buffer, which is free. You can link like your Instagram, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, Facebook to it, and you can schedule like 10 posts for the next week at optimal times and then just leave it. So like for the next 3 or 4 days, I'll know that there's something posted on LinkedIn that will just go on there, and I don't have to go on there to post it, and stops you from scrolling. So I appreciate for some people who go, I can't delete social media, I need it for business. And like, great, if you do need it, how can you make it work best for you?
yeah, 100%, mate.
Little things.
Yeah, and do you know what? And it is little things. It comes back to that connection as well. I mean, if you run a whole business off of social media, like, fine, you know, there's people on there, and I always wonder with this. They go, yeah, I'm not a people person. I'm social media. I'm like a social media giant, and this goes for like the influencers who have got a large following, and I've worked with a few of them. That these people are always the same people that will now and again write they're on antidepressants now, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, you got to look at the patterns.
Yeah.
That these people I've worked with are so lost because they have to play a persona and look a certain way. And they come to you because they're so lost. You've got the people that run businesses off social media, always the same people that are like, oh yeah, and I'm on antidepressants again, or I've just come off my antidepressant, or whatever else it is.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I got close to being that person. The irony is, the Untamed Man last time, 12 men. Where do you think they all come from?
Or from social media.
No.
Or local. Word of mouth.
All word of mouth.
Yeah.
Where the word of mouth come from? All because I set up in-person events. So the people that came. The people who they were connected to came. I've got 2 people off social media. Like, I'll sit here stressing about writing a post for my business. And don't get me wrong, like, the school stuff has come because of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I'll sit there stressing about writing a post. And I know we spoke about this earlier in the week about, like, whether you generate email, newsletters, or posts or whatever. I walked out the door for connection to that CrossFit gym to go and work out with the owner.
Yeah.
I meet 2 of the people in there. I've just finished the class, get talking. I get a new client.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll sit there stressing about writing a freaking a post, and then I'll go and pick up a client straight away by leaving the house. What do I do 48 hours later? Train with them again. What happens? I get talking to one of the females in there who's talking to me about anxiety.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, have you looked at this? About, like, as in some of her behaviors. Oh, has that linked to that? She's like, yeah, 5 minutes. She sat there, literally draw on the floor, and went, Rick, I've been in therapy 5 years. How did you just do that in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, get a phone call later. Rick, can I book you in for 10 sessions in January? Yeah. And again, we come back to connection in person. Like, I've never been on antidepressants. I've never had to go and see a therapist per se. because I don't know who I am or I feel lost.
The medical establishment will hate you, Rick,
I
because
know they will, but
they love
I'm
to
just saying,
realise
like,
it.
the clues are all out there, but nobody wants to pay attention.
Yeah, I think that's
Because
important.
we've completely normalized being on a screen. We've completely normalized looking at a phone, and we've made it completely taboo to be truly connected in person with people. And we're not looking at, we can become completely blinded to what's actually going on in front of our face.
That's why, and again, you're singing from the same hymn sheet as me of how important it is to get out and meet local people and either do stuff. It hasn't got to be that you're doing stuff in your community, but just getting in your community. Even with the Whole Man Academy dinner, that's why instead of doing them in London all the time, I was like, well, I know loads of guys around here. And you know what? I've had a couple of messages from guys who, again, you never know that they're listening, but saying, hey, I wanted to come to your dinner, but I couldn't because of this. But, when's your next one? And conceivably, we could have had, we had a couple of guys dropped out late on because they had issues and stuff going on with either kids or travel or whatever, but could have had probably 17 or 18 guys at our last dinner. And I'm sure the next time I do it, we'll probably have 18 to 20 guys there. And it's all local guys who are like conversations, connecting, what have you. I know two of them, recently have like gone, oh, one guy does this and I need that for my business. And you're like, it's easy to hide behind a keyboard he holds up because it is easy.
And do you know what? Sorry, mate, to interrupt. So there's 3 guys, Wolfpack. So obviously it's 3 men's community that are set up in Brighton Hove, and there's 3 guys that come or don't come, and they'll be on LinkedIn, and then they'll message me, oh Rick, I'm really like not got much work, blah, 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 can you help at all, do you know anyone? And they'll be on LinkedIn, they share their frustrations with me, and they never come to the Wolfpack. It's been going on since June. We've had something like 48 sessions of the Wolfpack since June, and the more it went on, the more people were looking at each other and what they did for a living and would hire each other, whether it was fencing, whether it was therapy, to have a therapist there, whether it was a car mechanic.
Yeah.
So I started getting work through each other. That work then became recommendation. And then the same 3 guys who we have on LinkedIn are like, oh yeah, been a real struggle lately. But then can't be bothered once a month get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to spend 2 hours with a group of guys. They're like, oh yeah, I'm really busy. Oh, I've got to seek this, another one. We won't talk about this one today. I need to get permission, like from the missus. And I'm like, out of that, all the hours in a month, you can't find 2 hours.
Yeah, to say, I'm going to this.
Yeah, I'm going to go to this to be authentic and chat and connect with like-minded men.
Yeah.
That potentially could also at some point with no agenda.
Could
lead
be
on the line. Exactly.
Yeah.
But they'll sit there and go, I'm really struggling, and then carry on social media. And I'm like, this is what I mean. Everything's in plain sight, but no one wants to look at it.
I think it's an important one to when I say like to finish on is that getting out in nature is great, but just getting out around people is so important. And like you say, it doesn't have to have an agenda, but that's why with our dinner, we had one guy drove from Birmingham, one guy drove from Wolverhampton. You'll know Joe, who came up from down south, as it were, and 2 of the guys were going to drive from Winchester but couldn't make it. And a lot of the guys, when they finished, they were like, there's nothing else around like this where you can just get together. We had guys there from Formula One, guys there from branding, guys there from, entrepreneurship, all these different things. And you're like, the connectivity or the connection that men are lacking is what we try and provide through the podcast, through e-letters, through that stuff. So I'm always reminding guys to seek it out from people like us and try and go out to anything local. And if not, start your own one. There's
exactly.
Now, what does 2023 look like for you? More of the same or anything in particular? I know we want to try and do some kind of event at some point, which I earlier named the Whole Untamed Man, or the Untamed Whole Man.
I love it. I love that. Yeah, mate, that's something I definitely want to sit down with you and explore next year. At least if we can get 1 or 2 events together across a weekend would be amazing.
Yeah.
Got the Untamed Man will be January, end of January, end of March, or end of January, end of April, end of August, end of November again next year. So that's really excited about bringing that into the world again. Boy to Manhood is pretty much is like a 5-part workshop that the independent schools I've got bookings on already for January, February. So I'm looking to take that even further because the whole point of that, mate, is one, the boys get to learn about masculinity, but it's also life skills. Like I teach them all about values and learning methodologies. I teach them about habits and identity, teach them about flow state, stress and anxiety, and also teach them how to goal set. So they're all skills that they don't get taught in schools, and teachers and parents aren't taught, you know, in universities or anything like that. And we're trying to bring that in so we can help young men in the broader aspect of life. So when, you know, the day they become fathers or business owners, or, you know, whatever they go on to do, they're always going to have these tools to call upon. So I'm really excited for that. And I've got the Wolfpack. So every third Saturday of the month, we meet up in Brighton and Hove, 7 in the morning till 9 o'clock. Take a sea dip. We talk, we connect, we share ideas. That's free and open to anybody in the local area. And that's it, mate. Like I didn't want to add. I wanted to keep with what the good work I've done, and I really wanted to push into those things. And then we'll see where that takes.
You've said something important there, which is it isn't always about adding more stuff in, like you say, because it's easy to think I need to do more. You're like, well, actually, you know, for a lot of guys, you'll have a lot of stuff going on in their life already. So, you know, a bit like you said, with having maybe a fairly nice morning routine to get your body going in the morning. And then after that, it's kind of not putting too much pressure on yourself to achieve too much, if that makes sense, especially at the start of the year. If you're listening to this in early January, it will be freezing cold, and you know, we're kind of getting our lighter mornings. But last thing is, where can men find you if they want to get in contact with you or learn more about you?
Yeah, so website www.rick-cooper.com, and LinkedIn, Rick Cooper on LinkedIn. They're my only platforms. So yeah, just check them out. Send me a DM, message me, and happy to connect.
Go from there. Well, we put all the links in the show notes, if I remember. I've managed to get my tech brain works these days, but this won't be the last time. I'll be down for a Wolfpack thing at some point when I get permission from Emma.
My Untamed Man at end of January. Untamed Man.
Yeah, well, obviously, and as we know, with another baby on the way for this year, as it's coming out in 2023 for us, it will be. I'll be looking for even more opportunities to kind of connect with men, because I'll be surrounded by babies, nappies, and stuff like that. So, right, Rick, as always, it's a pleasure, and I will speak to you soon.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute joy. I know we could carry on for ages, but thanks very much for hosting me, mate.
Thanks for listening. Remember to sign up to our game-changing weekly e-letter that's read by men around the world. Sign up at wholemanacademy.com/movement. Until next time.